In the stock market, timing is considered very difficult. That isn't the case in HUT because of a consistent release schedule and predictable patterns. I find that prices are typically higher later on in the weekends because of an increased demand. Prices are at their lowest when packs are put into the game that significantly increase supply and when new cards come out that encourage pack consumption. That usually is Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Keep in mind the prices can and will quickly rebound after the initial supply dwindles. If you happen to be the first or one of the first to acquire a new chase card right after it releases, that is one time to see if someone will overpay for it rather than sitting on it and seeing where the price settles. The market constantly fluctuates, both due to actual use of cards as fodder and for speculative purposes. The key is to figure out when the prices are low and buy before the spike. For example, due to Game Breakers packs and objectives, 90 overalls went down to about 30 to 35K. People expected them to be used per team this season, so they then skyrocketed to 60K. When team of the season came out, 91s were revealed to be the main fodder. 90s went back down to where they were before, thereabouts. In this example, if you sold 90s for their pre-team of the season reveal price, you would have made significant profit compared to close to none otherwise. How do you know when there is a lull? You can look for a time when the price of adjacent overall fodder is very close together, at least compared to where it was in the recent past. A good example is the current 87 and 88 overalls. They can be bought for the same price of about 7K. When this closer event came out, 87 surged from 7K to 9K due to the initial demand and people selling off 87s previously in anticipation of 95 MSPs. They didn't want to get nothing out of 87s. Knowing this was a temporary surge, I sold all my 87 and 88s for 9K, and I'll rebuy the 88s in the next week or two for much lower than what I sold for. You can also look for times when supply is much higher than normal for whatever reason, whether it be objectives, new packs, a new season, XP path, etc. I'd recommend tracking prices, even if it's just once a day, to make sure you're on the right track. I always like to mitigate or minimize risk in case something unexpected happens. EA recently has had a tendency to surprise people with fodder and other set requirements differently than what we expected. In the previous example, I would always buy 88s instead of 87s because they're the same price and it minimizes said risk. 91 and 92 overalls follow the same blueprint because they're currently similar price. Although I know that 91s will drop once the set for the current MSPs will end. The majority of the player base is in Eastern time, so assume I'm referring to that in terms of night. Prices are usually at their daily high overnight due to lack of supply, so having something up at that time maximizes your chance of someone paying more for it than they usually would. I'd like to list or relist my items for 6 or 12 hours before going to bed, usually at prices a bit higher than the current cheapest because it has a higher chance of selling than it would otherwise. An overpriced unsold item is better than an item you never listed. The diligent players will always check for the cheapest card on the market when buying, but that isn't the case for everyone. I define as lazy buyer as someone who will buy a card regardless of the price and doesn't care. Let's say you need 87 overalls for the 89 event set. You would filter and see what the lowest price is. In this case, it's just above 7,000. A lazy buyer would just see an 87, think the price is fair, and buy it regardless of what the cheapest is. In this case, let's say 10 or 11,000. Lazy buyers are typically more prevalent in a flourishing auction house and on lower value cards. You can sell 89s for double their value relatively easily, but I don't think anyone would happily pay 200,000 instead of the 100,000 market value for a 94 EuroLeague player unless you really listed the card a million times, which I don't recommend. This method is typically best at the beginning of the year, as you can list your cards significantly overpriced overnight, and sometimes they do sell due to lack of market awareness and supply. I hope this video helped you. For more ways to make coins and market tips and tricks, please feel free to drop a like and subscribe. Thank you.